The party is underway. Later today, the ceremony to honor the 2014 team will commence. But first, the ceremony to honor Jeff Kolpak's great FCS mind. It's the Bison pregame show, live from the Fargo Dome tailgating lots, live on WDAY.com. Good afternoon, everybody. From the Fargo Dome, we're live, ready for the season, or home opener, for North Dakota State, along with great FCS mind Jeff Kolpak.
Well, now we got
Good
that
afternoon.
out of the way.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
And Big E, Eric Peterson, with the Cowboy Tough shirt. You're already getting ragged on that. I think you look fabulous today, by the way.
Well, quit pumping Kolpak's tires over
I have
there.
to.
He has the thrift shop
I know.
sport jacket over there and thinks he's stylish.
I'm merely Dom Izzo. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our live half-hour pregame show in anticipation of the home opener for the Bison as they take on Weber State later today at 2:30. Well, the biggest question mark heading into today's game, gentlemen, was who was going to quarterback the Bison. We found out yesterday it's number 11, Carson Wentz, will start today.
Biggest question for the last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
correct? After he injured his ankle in the second half at Montana. It's a high ankle sprain. Now everybody is almost an amateur orthopedic surgeon. Is a high ankle sprain, is that 6 weeks, 4 weeks,
Yeah.
2 weeks? Well, I think we found out, and that's a bad injury as they're looking at that. It looked bad, but I think they're not going to put him out there if he's not ready to go.
I mean, you look at that injury, Big E, and he was not the same after that play. We saw it at the end of the fourth quarter, obviously, on that drive that went 3 and out when he tried 2 passes. Are you surprised he's going to start today?
Well, you had the 2 weeks off, and you hear a high ankle sprain. We don't know how bad it was. Was it a mild one, a severe one? Like Jeff said, I don't think they'd put him out there if they felt they're putting him at risk. And maybe it's where you put him out there for a quarter or a half, see how it goes, and if it's not going well, maybe Easton Stick gets the call and he'll get his first action as a quarterback if that happens today.
What do you make of this here? If the biggest thing that Chris Kleiman hit at is he did not want to see Carson Wentz play where it was at quote-unquote Northern Iowa level last year. If we think Wentz was at 65, 70% in that game, what do we think he'll be at today if he's good enough to start?
Again, it makes us look like amateur orthopedic surgeon. What is 65%?
Yeah.
What
Well,
is
it was
80%?
it was that Northern
What is
Iowa game
90%?
last year.
Well, 60% was
Yeah,
Northern Iowa.
yeah.
That's not good enough because
No.
you cannot run this offense just throwing the ball because you need to run the ball. And the first half, we saw that in Montana.
Yep.
He was effective with those runs. He scored on those runs. And if you can't run the ball, that just takes half your offense out.
Now, if Wentz can't go part of this game, Easton Stick is ready. The redshirt freshman who got all the reps all last week because Wentz was in street clothes and he got a majority of the reps earlier this week, Big E. He also brings the ability to run the ball. We saw it during the spring last season. What does he bring to the table? Obviously, he doesn't have the size that number 11 has.
Maybe it gives you a little bit more of a running factor going on. Obviously, he will not throw the ball as well as Carson Wentz. I think the biggest thing you got to look at, will he be able to get to the line of scrimmage and get him in the right play? That's something that Carson Wentz maybe grew into last year because as the season went along, the offense got better. So against the Weber State front that gave him trouble last year, if you can't get into the right run checks, that could be an issue.
I thought from all the interviews, and Easton did a couple with us, he sounded like, hey, I'm taking this just like I'm starting for Creighton Prep in my season finale back in Omaha. It didn't seem like he was bothered by it one bit.
Well, you got to look for that, correct? Because
Yeah.
you don't want a guy that's going to say this is the biggest game
Right.
of my life because you don't coach big games like they're big games. We've learned that over the years with this program with all the four titles. What you see in Easton Stick, I think it's more of a run guy, right? He's a little quicker, I think, with his feet than Carson Wentz. But if he's in the game, offense, does it dumb it down a little bit? Does the playback get
Do you think
scaled
they do
back?
that today with Wentz not being 100%?
Maybe. I mean, do you call as many runs?
Right.
If I'm Weber State, am I looking for the pass exclusively?
Well, I think if you're NDSU, I don't think you have quarterback running plays early, and if you can run the ball just doing your normal running back stuff, then you do that. But if they start, slamming down on the running back and shutting that off, I think you have to do it. You can't just keep on running into a brick wall, and maybe you do have to involve Carson Wentz in the running game.
I also find it interesting. The last time a redshirt freshman played in the home opener for the Bison, 2010, a guy named Brock Jensen. That worked out okay for NDSU way back when.
But Brock was almost by necessity. They needed it. There was no depth whatsoever, so a little different circumstances.
That was
this time.
against Morgan State. We've got a packed show coming up later. We'll diagram what's going on with NDSU's kicking game. A true freshman will kick today, and also the Bison has some changes on the offensive line again after some injuries. We'll talk about that later in today's show. And also, of course, don't forget our Saturday selections with Kolpak and Big E. I don't know what he's got in store for us later today, but everybody is waiting for that coming up later in today's show.
It'll be something, Dom. I'm not going to tip my hand.
When we come back, we'll enter one of the Bison greats that played on the transition teams and honoring a teammate that's no longer here. That's continuing when we come back live to the Fargo Dome. It's the Bison pregame show live on WDAY.com.
This is your livelihood, and success requires a seed partner that's just as committed as you are. Just like you, we're farmers first, so our values are rooted just as deep and our goals are just as strong. Our team is ready to hit your fields, so no matter what each growing season brings, we'll get through it together. It's who we are. Thunderseed, first in the field.
More plays. More coverage. More sports. Stay ahead of the game. Get your sports fix with Sports Sunday. Sunday nights at 10:35. Sports Sunday is brought to you by Nelson Auto Center in Fergus Falls.
The specialists are so important because they're the ones that can take your team from average to great. The guys that have their specialized roles and understand them and do them really well, those guys are hard to find. And so when you have those guys that are good at what they do and believe in what they're doing, don't care too much about who gets the credit, and want to go out and prove something, I think that that is probably the most important ingredient in a successful team.
Choose the experts. Choose Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
This is your livelihood, and success requires a seed partner that's just as committed as you are. Just like you, we're farmers first, so our values are rooted just as deep and our goals are just as strong. Our team is ready to hit your fields, so no matter what each growing season brings, we'll get through it together. It's who we are. Thunderseed, first in the field.
Back here on the Bison pregame show, live on WDAY.com outside the Fargo Dome tailgating lots. Back with Jeff Kolpak. I'm Dom Izzo. There'll be a special ceremony, as I talked about off the top, with the banner raising going up, Jeffrey, for the 4th straight year. But also they're going to have a ceremony to honor the life of Tyler Jangula, who passed away over Super Bowl weekend after complications after he had surgery for a torn Achilles tendon. Jangula was one of the standouts of the transition teams for North Dakota State. I will never forget that touchdown, his first career one that he scored against Ball State in the first win that NDSU had against an FBS program, a Williston native, one of the first, the groundbreakers to show that North Dakota kids could play Division I football. And now they're having an honorary golf tournament. They have a scholarship for him now. Your fondest memories of watching Tyler Jangula, number 25, play?
Well, as we talked, as we just watched the touchdown against Ball State, and our next guest will remember this, but he sacrificed himself. That's when he hurt his ACL and he scored and he got up and he knew something was wrong. But my favorite memory, just on how big he was. You know, those shoulder pads looked like they were just mountains. And he's a fullback. And I'll never forget that block I think he had at Central Michigan leading the way, and he sent this cornerback about 5 yards, 10 yards deep. And at that point, Central Michigan goes, whoa, I think we're in for a game here.
He was, and I said he broke the mold he was just a freak athlete. He was an outstanding basketball player as well.
Yeah, and he had a vertical jump. He could dunk the basketball.
Yeah.
I think without those bad knees, I think he's a pro football player. I do. He had to try out the Saints. He just never got that quickness back.
They're honoring him today. I got to imagine there's going to be a standing ovation live when the game happens during that later today.
Everybody recognizes what all these players did, I think, in the transition era. And all they set the table, I think, for this run. This doesn't happen if that doesn't happen.
We're pleased to welcome in a standout also of the transition team, one of Tyler's teammates, Justin Frick, who played from 2003 to 2006. You just said before you came on the air with us, this is their first time back to take in this. What is your thoughts seeing this?
Well, I've been back to some games, but it's my first time experiencing the tailgating. It's kind of overwhelming. I can't believe how much it's grown and everything, and people are so energetic and enthusiastic about the whole experience.
You know, one of the reasons you're here is your jersey's hanging at Chubb's Pub, right? That automatically makes you legendary status.
Well, I think that has more to do with the fact that I work there part-time. So Teddy
let me do that, I guess.
Well, describe what yesterday was like. What do you think today will be? I'm assuming you probably connected with guys, teammates you probably haven't seen since your playing days.
Yeah, you know, it's good to run into old familiar faces. We had a great time yesterday. We raised a lot of money for the scholarship. I think it's been a fantastic thing for the family to move forward and get this thing going for Tyler in his name. He was a guy that really lived the Bison, you know, tradition. He was hard-nosed, tough, and honoring.
So you were a defensive lineman. I want to know, like in practice, when he was coming around ready to block like guys like you, what was that like?
Well, I would never let him know this, but he could hit. I mean, the guy could hit pretty hard. But if I was lucky enough to get to go against him, it was always fun and always competitive.
What was he like off the field?
Very energetic, enthusiastic, and fun. There was never a dull moment to be had with the guy. He always had a positive attitude and loved life to the fullest.
You know, we talked about this, Justin, on the our radio show, that just the nicest guy ever off it, right? Just a gentle, nice guy off it. But like a lot of you guys, when you get on the field, you make that switch. What was that difference like?
Well, I will say this. He was the first guy to ever hug me and, like, really gave me a serious bear hug. He took you right in. He was always that way. His family is that way. They're really welcoming, loving people. But once we got out there on the field, it was all business for him. It was, we're gonna play, and we're gonna play hard. And I think he did that in every aspect of his life.
You know, being an Upper Midwest, North Dakota, South Dakota guys, to have success in Division I, because there was a ton of people saying, well, those guys aren't going to make, you know, they can't play. And then you guys had the success, especially that 2006 year. You beat Ball State, you nearly beat Michigan. What did that send? Because it sent shockwaves now where a ton of the roster is North Dakota and South Dakota guys.
You know, the biggest thing was once you got out there, knowing that they're just people too. You can work just as hard and compete with any of them. And we have talented athletes in the Midwest, and we draw talent from all over to come to NDSU. And with the school and tradition and everything, it's kind of a good choice to come here and play.
What changed it for you? Was it the Gopher win? Was it another victory? What changed the perception for you?
The tradition was always here. It was just a matter of getting in the mindset that we can win. The year before I came here, I think they were 2-8, a lot of injuries. And when Craig Bull came in and that whole transition happened, what we did is we just embodied the tradition. We were winning tradition before, and it was just a matter of time before it came back.
What is it like to watch them on TV now? How weird is that?
Well, I generally watch the games at home by myself, and my soon-to-be wife, she knows this, I kind of just do my own thing during the games. I'm a little overwhelming.
You still get into it.
I get a little too into it. So it's just me and the dog generally on the porch, and she'll come and check on me.
Before we let you go, what do you think your emotions are going to be like when they honor Tyler today during the game?
You know, I haven't really thought about it that much. It'll be good. It'll be good to walk out on the field and remember him. I think the biggest thing is everyone just needs to keep a positive attitude because he always had one.
We really appreciate you coming by and enjoy the game today.
Thank you. I'm going to go enjoy the tailgate.
Justin Frick, NDSU standout from 2003 to 2006. When we come back live here to the Fargo Dome, we got to talk about the opponent today, Weber State, the Wildcats, who play the Bison. That's next as we continue live on the pregame show, live on WDAY.com.
For over 60 years, our focus has been you. A growing community needs a news source that grows with them. And you found that source in WDAY.
Good evening, everyone.
Our 6 p.m. newscast has been with you night after night. When the city comes to life or when news happens, you'll know. Dana Mock, Kirsten Keeley, out in the community, behind the desk.
It's had no major issues with users viewing offensive materials.
2 anchors you can trust. When the news hits, there's only one source to turn to. WDAY, the news leader.
Where do you go for the latest news in agriculture? Ag Week magazine. Reaching over 30,000 farmers and ranchers in North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Montana. Ag Week provides the most up-to-date information on the markets, the trends, and the people who make it all happen. We're your source for news, not fluff. Dependable, trusted. Ag Week. Subscribe today by calling 1-800-811-2580.
Say goodbye to expensive window treatments and Saturdays filled with dusting. Minn Kota Windows offers blinds between the glass and select window styles and sliding patio doors. With low E glass, they're even more energy efficient. They're easy to operate, have a clean, efficient look, and control privacy, light, and heat. And the best part is, they're safe for kids and pets. Blinds between the glass from Minn Kota Windows. Midwest built, Midwest tough, guaranteed for life.
Minn Kota Windows, windows for your world.
For over 60 years, our focus has been you. A growing community needs a news source that grows with them. And you found that source in WDAY.
Good evening, everyone.
Our 6 p.m. newscast has been with you night after night. When the city comes to life or when news happens, you'll know. Dana Mock, Kirsten Keeley, out in the community, behind the desk.
It's had no major issues with users viewing offensive materials.
2 anchors you can trust. When the news hits, there's only one source to turn to. WDAY, the news leader.
Welcome back, everybody, live here to the Fargo Dome. The Bison pregame show rolling on WDAY.com. Big E rejoins us along with Jeff Kolpak. I'm Dom Izzo.
Hey, Dom. Some things are more important than pregame shows.
Like what?
Weddings.
Really?
Here we go.
Wow, look at this.
Whoa.
Oh, my goodness.
Our first soon-to-be newlyweds ever on the pregame show. Travis and Stephanie here.
When are you guys? You guys are getting married today?
Yeah, today. Yep.
But you had to come to the game first?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Okay, so what time's the wedding happening?
4 o'clock.
Is it here?
It's up north. Yeah. A few blocks.
So you have to leave the game early then, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Are you actually going into the game?
We won't be able to go in. No, but we wish.
You got the whole bridal party here as well, right?
Yep.
So how long was this planned? Or was this lack of planning?
We realized it was on the same day as the home opener, so it was a prime opportunity.
At least it's better than next week, right? You can't afford to miss the UND.
No, absolutely not. That weekend was out.
Well, good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Steph, getting married today. The whole bridal party is here. We've had Miss North Dakota, now we got a bridal party on the
We had
pregame
Miss
show.
North Dakota a year ago right here.
Yeah,
if
I know
remember.
it. That's pretty good stuff.
See, Dom, I deliver bridal parties, man. It's just not picks, football and stuff. I go all
You just
in.
nonstop. You just always deliver, don't you?
Well, it's kind of by chance,
All right.
but it worked out.
It was worked out. All right, let's talk about the opponent today, Jeffrey. Weber State comes here to Fargo off a loss last week at Oregon State. Let's go back to last year's game because everybody will remember that was the game where Lee Fitting, game day producer, said the Bison have to win to get game day to come back. And it was a struggle early on. NDSU went up 7-0 for this long touchdown, and Weber State tied it up at 7.
I thought Weber was really good up front, much better than they came in advertised. You got to remember, NDSU went into that game after the big Iowa State win. And then you got that Lee Fitting and the ESPN Game Day, which I think we found out later was probably a bigger deal than we thought.
Also, Big E, Carson Wentz struggled in the first half, threw 2 first-half interceptions in that game. Here's the other one that kept Weber State alive.
And maybe that's the other reason why you're seeing Carson Wentz in this game. Do you want to see Easton Stick against a very stout run defense that can, match up NDSU physically, at least at the point of attack like they did last year?
This was the play that changed the game, Kolpak, though. Kyle Emanuel with a huge hit and Carlton Littlejohn with a scoop and score.
Carlton Littlejohn was huge that game. Not only did he have the touchdown, he had 12 tackles.
Yeah.
I thought he was one of those guys that really just changed that complexion.
King Frazier scored this touchdown that pretty much salted the game away. But Big E, there was a huge play. You and I will talk about it forever. It was on the fake field goal attempt where Littlejohn made maybe the play, I don't want to say of the season, but early on he was terrific.
It just shows you maybe the little differences between this year's team and last year's team. Maybe last year's team, a linebacker slips through on that last play at Montana, makes that play. I'm not saying it's an easy play, but guys like Littlejohn, Beck, Emmanuel made those type of plays in big situations, and that's something this defense is going to have to figure out. Who's going to be the guy to step up and make those plays in those spots?
You got to remember, though, that was Carson Wentz's only second start.
That's correct.
And at that point, the waters were untested still.
It also was the site of the best high five ever given by Prakash Matthew on the sideline, right?
Do you have
With Golden
film of
Eagle.
that?
Well, it was on there. The
the
video
best
was there.
day, yeah.
All right. Now, Weber comes in. We mentioned it off the top. Off a loss last week at Oregon State. It was a 13-7 game into the fourth quarter, Jeff, before the Beavers pulled away. Oregon State playing at Michigan today. I'm not sure what to take from this game, if Oregon State is not good or Oregon State's not that good or Weber is that good.
Oregon State's up on Michigan after one quarter.
Yeah.
So we don't know. I mean, sometimes those FBS teams don't get up for the FCS games. It's hard to gauge that, but I think Weber's pretty good. I think more than that, it's a Valley versus Big Sky game.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be big down the line, don't you think?
And we'll talk about that later when we get to the predictions. Let's talk now on NDSU. Changes again up front. I know you've been focused on this since fall camp started. Zach Johnson, the starting left guard, out with a broken foot. Zach Zemer, the sophomore, will make his first collegiate start at left guard today.
Well, like we talked earlier, it looked like a strength at the beginning of the year, but then Jack Plankers breaks his foot in the preseason. Now Zach Johnson's out. Now that depth is going to be tested. How good are these guys when you put them in a game time situation? And this is this is a tough matchup if you're like starting your first game at guard, because what Weber State's going to be physical,
Right.
Weber State is going to be tough, and they're going to come at them. So to me, I think NDSU has got to find a way to get the ball deep early, or find a jet sweep guy. I mean,
Have not done that.
if Carson Wentz can't find the edge because of his ankle, they've got to find a jet sweep guy who can stretch the defense, because since Ryan Smith, there hasn't been anyone who can consistently do that for
Well,
this
you talk
team.
about depth, though. Zemer's not going to go 75 plays, right? So it's
That's
going to be
what
like a
we're told,
Volson
yeah.
guy. It's going to be a freshman that has to step
Or
in.
Christian Triplett, a redshirt freshman, Tanner Volson, both redshirt freshmen that are going to get their first reps today. Also getting first reps, a guy who has not played since his junior year of high school. That's Cam Peterson at kicker for the Bison, Jeff.
I was looking for stuff from a senior year in high school, and there's
Can't
none.
find it.
You know why? Because he didn't play.
Yeah.
He had a torn ACL. He suffered as a quarterback in an inter-squad scrimmage beforehand. And
He's
then
got
he only played half his junior year in
Yeah.
high school, too, because of a broken collarbone.
I saw him in practice. This is video from Tuesday. He's got a strong leg, but this is his first go-around. He's either going to do some PATs or kickoffs in today's game.
And I asked Chris Kleiman yesterday, how much action will this guy see? Who's going to kick? Who's going to do kickoffs? His answer was, we'll see in pregame warm-ups.
Yeah, but you had to feel this move was
Interesting.
coming. I mean, for Ben LeCompte,
do
you can
everything.
say all the things
Can't.
you want. To do
Yeah.
all three of
Can't.
those things, it's just too much. I mean, physically you can do it, but the leg, you're going to get
Right.
tired. You don't want him to like hurt his punting because he's doing this other stuff. And I think maybe Montana, you throw Ben LeCompte out there because of the situation. He's been in high-pressure situations. He's punted at Kansas State. But now you're at home. I think this is the chance to give the true freshman a shot.
All right, when we come back, we'll update the injuries to the Bison, and coming up still, our predictions. You don't want to miss that. Back live to the Dome right after this.
This is your livelihood, and success requires a seed partner that's just as committed as you are. Just like you, we're farmers first, so our values are rooted just as deep and our goals are just as strong. Our team is ready to hit your fields, so no matter what each growing season brings, we'll get through it together. It's who we are. Thunderseed, first in the field.
When the weather takes a turn, you can rely on WDAY's weather team to give you up-to-the-minute coverage for your area with our weather team's dual-pole radar technology and our Storm Tracker weather vehicle, powered by Kia of Fargo. When you're on the go, check out WDAY's Yourcast app, listen to AM 970 WDAY radio, or visit WDAY.com for even more weather information. No matter where you are, wherever you go, we'll be there with life-saving weather info from your WDAY Storm Tracker team. More plays. More coverage. More sports. Stay ahead of the game. Get your sports fix with Sports Sunday. Sunday nights at 10:35. Sports Sunday is brought to you by Nelson Auto Center in Fergus Falls.
The specialists are so important because they're the ones that can take your team from average to great. The guys that have their specialized roles and understand them and do them really well, those guys are hard to find. And so when you have those guys that are good at what they do and believe in what they're doing, don't care too much about who gets the credit, and want to go out and prove something, I think that that is probably the most important ingredient in a successful team.
Choose the experts. Choose Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
The Media Blog Injury Report, brought to you by Sanford Orthopedics.
Welcome back, everybody, live to the Fargo Dome Tailgating Lots. The Bison pregame show rolling on. Still to come is our Saturday selections. First up, the Sanford Health injury update. Some big guys dealing with some injuries, Big E. Let's start with starting corner C.J. Smith. Missed the season opener against Montana. He's going to go, though, today.
I think that's a big return for the Bison, just because he's a guy you can put out there on your top receiver and just leave him be. With the new safeties, the less amount of stuff you can put on their plate, the better. So the safeties can worry elsewhere if you can throw C.J. Smith on another team's best receiver and let him cover what he does best.
Zach Johnson, as we alluded to earlier, though, Kolpak will not play today with a broken foot.
Well, you wonder how much can one guy take. He had the bad knee last year, missed all last year, sprained his shoulder in the Montana game.
Yeah.
Then it's a stress fracture, I think, of what it is.
Yep.
He was just running in practice, so now he's out 4 to 6. They think 4 weeks, but then joins Jack Plankers in the broken foot list.
And obviously the last one is Carson Wentz dealing with the ankle sprain, although we're told Wentz will start today. Curious to see if he is limited at all in the running game or if they even try to run him with the football today.
I think if he's going to play, they're going to have to try to run him. I don't think he can disguise that. I really don't.
All right, we'll take a break. We come back. I know everybody's ready for our predictions with Big E. That's coming up next. We wrap things up in the pregame show live on WDAY.com.
This is your livelihood, and success requires a seed partner that's just as committed as you are. Just like you, we're farmers first, so our values are rooted just as deep and our goals are just as strong. Our team is ready to hit your fields, so no matter what each growing season brings, we'll get through it together. It's who we are. Thunderseed, first in the field.
When the weather takes a turn, you can rely on WDAY's weather team to give you up-to-the-minute coverage for your area with our weather team's dual-pole radar technology and our Storm Tracker weather vehicle, powered by Kia of Fargo. When you're on the go, check out WDAY's Yourcast app, listen to AM 970 WDAY radio, or visit WDAY.com for even more weather information. No matter where you are, wherever you go, we'll be there with life-saving weather info from your WDAY Storm Tracker team. More plays, more coverage, more sports. Stay ahead of the game. Get your sports fix with Sports Sunday. Sunday nights at 10:35. Sports Sunday is brought to you by Nelson Auto Center in Fergus Falls.
The specialists are so important because they're the ones that can take your team from average to great. The guys that have their specialized roles and understand them and do them really well, those guys are hard to find. And so when you have those guys that are good at what they do and believe in what they're doing, don't care too much about who gets the credit and want to go out and prove something, I think that that is probably the most important ingredient in a successful team.
Choose the experts. Choose Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Welcome back, everybody. Final segment here on the Bison pregame show. Time for what everyone's been waiting for, our Saturday selections. Kolpak mentioned this is a huge day. Missouri Valley, Big Sky. It's like a wrestling showdown. You love that anytime I can get a wrestling mix in there. Everybody's going to be watching. 1 o'clock kickoff coming up top of the hour. Eastern Washington at Northern Iowa today.
I'm going against Kolpak. I got to go Northern Iowa here. I think this is like a must-win for them. You hate to say
it's
that
not like
2 games
it's a
in.
must-win.
I mean, they have a tough schedule after that. They're at home. Eastern Washington has a new quarterback. Granted, they have a very good offense still with Cooper Kupp. But I think they got to go. They're all in this game.
I'm with Northern Iowa, too.
I think Northern Iowa's really missing Xavier Williams, big guy in the middle.
Yeah.
They gave up 31 to Iowa State. Eastern's too good offensively. I got Eastern.
All right, Kolpak, UC Davis, your favorite stop against South Dakota and Joe Glenn tonight.
It's a tough trip. I'm not there with South Dakota yet. I'm going with Davis at home.
I'm with Davis as well.
Davis.
Finally, in Brookings, South Dakota State, a night game hosting Southern Utah, nearly beat Utah State last week.
Well, the 2/3 completed renovation dedication of Coughlin alumni. I'm going to South Dakota State.
I'm with the Jacks as well. I think they come back, have a good performance after the Kansas win.
I think it's close early, just a little hangover from the FBS win for the Jacks. But late in the game, I think they find a way to win this.
All right, time now for our prediction for the Bison and Weber State. The elder statesman leads off.
Well, after the loss, I think a lot of people were wondering if they needed Dr. J. In fact, Chris Kleiman goes, hey, Dr. J, do I need you? Do I make a house call? No, this is not about the Wildcats either. This is about getting back on the horse there, Dom. After you lose,
the cowboy hat already.
The cowboy hat is out already. I'm going NDSU 31, Weber 20. Back on the horse.
I never doubted you for a second. I think the Bison play emotional. I think they play angry today. I think the defense has something to prove as well. I'm always going to call a turnover. Watch for C.J. Smith for an interception today. I have the Bison winning 27-13. He's cowboy tough. Not your
he
shirt.
makes fun of my shirt, which
I
is
know.
cowboy tough. Then he brings in a cowboy hat.
What do you got?
You know, last week the offense played a half. You know, wasn't so good in the second half. The defense had their ups and downs. Well, I got 2 key words today for NDSU.
One of those. Oh, we got a prop.
Not a wardrobe.
Hard edge. It is hard edge mode day for NDSU. And it's got to be a hard edge throughout the game. You can't play a half with the hard edge. You can't play a quarter with the hard edge. And I think they'll get it done. There'll be enough of an edge today. NDSU 31, Weber State 17.
There you have it, folks. The Bison pregame show. Complete highlights, reaction coming up on WDAY, then postgame on WDAY.com. We'll see you after the game.